What's up, LEGO builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for week 7 of building the Battle of Coruscant in LEGO. This week, I am going to be pumping the brakes a little bit with the macro building and jumping to a little bit more micro scale of building. Obviously, I'm not going to be building like little tiny things, but I'm going to be building smaller sections of this MOC that have kind of been, I don't want to say overlooked, but been pushed back, but still need to be done before I can move on. Like the top of the base wall, I want to put in some electric wire, and then I'm going to be working on the barracks in the base, as well as tiling off some sections of the apartment building. All in all, I still have lots of good stuff to show you guys. As always, come on, it's a Coruscant update. Don't forget to execute Order 66 on that like button, and while you're down there, if you haven't already, consider subscribing and tapping that little notification bell so you'll be notified as soon as the next video drops. Now that the base walls are finished, I want to start laying down the electric wire that will run across the top. I'm going to use some LEGO pipes connected to the wall by clips and jumper plates. I'm going to test two different color patterns. The first one will be all light bluish gray parts, and the second one will have dark bluish gray clips and jumper plates to add a little bit of color contrast and to help keep the walls from looking too washed. I'm having an issue with the pipes, however. They don't line up in the right spot to reach the clip and touch the next one and next pipe in line, so there are some little gaps between the pipes. Now I could cut them down and shrink the gap between the clips to make them fit better, but each time I cut one of these, it makes them a little bit less useful in future projects because I'm making them shorter. Okay, let's talk progress. So you saw these things come together in that little time lapse, the electric fence or wiring that's going to run along the top of the base. As I've been sitting here building and looking at these, I think I'm going to go with this dark bluish gray highlighting method rather than all light bluish gray parts like over there. That area just looks too washed, and it's kind of hard to see that there's something on top of there, especially from a distance. So I think the dark bluish gray will help reveal the electric wire. I still have not figured out a solution for the gap problem with the different lengths of pipe. That's not a huge deal, I can kind of figure that out as I go. Another thing I wanted to talk about briefly was the road. I've basically been grabbing any kind of white 1x brick that I can find in my bins. I'm even using a window on this side because, once it's set like that and there's light bluish gray brick on either side, you won't be able to tell what that part's made of. You'll just know it's white. Now I did have something rather unfortunate happen. I got a bunch of these 1x2x5 bricks in to help, to build this middle section between the two white lines. And I ordered 20, and look at all these. They're the old dark gray color. I specifically ordered dark bluish gray and double checked on the store to make sure, that's what I selected. Sure enough, I had selected dark bluish gray. They even have a separate section for dark gray parts. So I was pretty mad because that was a lot of parts, and obviously I can't just have a dark gray dark gray section right here with dark bluish gray on either side. So I emailed them, and they're going to get the correct parts sent out. So I think what I'm going to do with these is stick them on the base like that to kind of support whatever dark bluish gray brick could go on top. I'm sure you guys would love for me to continue talking about the riveting problems I'm having with this road and the colors, but I'm going to get back to building. But before I do so, I have something very cool. Okay, this is probably not very cool for you guys, but it's very cool for me. I've been in a serious part drought. This MOC is just eating up all the parts I ordered just as soon as I get them. And so I was in dire need of some reinforcements. I got a ton of light bluish gray tile. I got a bunch of 2x4s right here, and then some more brick, dark bluish gray tiles to finish off the base floor. And for those of you following Jabim, I got the rest of the Jabim pieces in, some wedge plates, plants, and then the much needed head and hair piece for my Alto Stratus minifigure. So lots of good stuff in there. I'll be finishing up Jabim later this week. The barracks walls are the next thing I'm going to be working on over here. The first few rows will be just light bluish gray, but as I get higher, I want to add more detail. I'm hoping I have enough of these angled bricks to build a decent amount of the corners of the building, but even with the alternating pattern I've been doing, I don't think I'll have enough to finish in this update. I wanted to add numbers to the buildings, so I built some out of tile. The hard part will be putting these on the side of the base wall. I'm going to try and use headlight bricks to build little sections of the wall with the tiles connected to them. Whew, I am just in the thick of things right now. we got a lot to talk about. So this is what the barracks is looking like so far. I've got those nice decaled numbers on the side. I like the gaps between the tiles. These happen just because when the headlight bricks are set on top of each other, it creates a little bit of a space there between the tiles, but I like it because I feel like it makes it look like it's been decaled on there, like they put the stencil down and then sprayed it on. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then I was able to add some details here to the front walls. I added these little vent looking things, whether they be ventilators, swamp coolers, some kind of way to, filter air in and out of the barracks. And then next to them, I just stuck a couple of dark bluish gray tiles horizontally just to add some lines and some details to break up the light bluish gray walls. On the side of the barracks, we've got this bigger vent. I am all about vents. If you can't tell, I love me some vents. I feel like vents are just a great detail for any kind of base, building, city, or anything urban. It's just some of these slanted grates on some plates connected to the side. Now let's talk problems, shall we? So I finished up all of the walls as best I could. Unfortunately, I ran out of these 1x4 slopes, so I'm gonna have to order more in, which is frustrating because I just made this huge order and I wasn't planning on ordering anything for a while, and I have all of these parts, but now I can't finish this base just because of 3 parts. I mean, if that isn't the story of mock building, I don't know what is. But while I wait for those, there are still stuff I can do on the interior and other parts of the base I can work on. So the issue I ran into is most apparent right here. I designed the base off of these large wedge plates. They make up each of the corners of the buildings, and I realized way too late that these 1x4 studs don't cover the entirety of this wedge plate. They only go to about here, which leaves these 2 studs that need to be filled up. So it gives you this ugly looking corner that runs up the entire length of the mock. What I'm going to have to do is tear out all of the wedge plates and replace them with these smaller 1x4 wedge plates that will line up perfectly with these 1x4 slopes. I already did that over here on this side, and you can see it gives me a much cleaner corner and a much better overall shape without having this ugly little pop out that's on this side. So I'm still gonna have to do that over here, but I'm gonna worry about that later because I don't want the clone base to eat up all of the time for this update. So it's time to hit up the apartment complex. Before I build anything else in this section, I want to get some of the walls tiled off. It's been 7 weeks since I started this mock, and this whole structure is still mostly exposed on the outside. So it'll be nice to have at least one of the faces covered and finished. I'm interested to see if this technique is going to capture the vision and the look that I want to achieve for the buildings of Coruscant. Because if this works, I want to replicate it on the other sections of buildings in this mock. I've seen little bits of the wall finished here and there, and I've pictured it in my mind, but it will be nice to see what the finished product actually looks like. This section of finished wall looks so good. This is definitely what I was envisioning as I planned this out. They help add detail to this wall and break up the flat expanse of the front here, make it look like, there's more stuff going on inside. While I was putting this together, I actually had the idea to throw in some random bricks like these ingot pieces right here, and then these rounded 1x2 plates just to break up the monotony of the light bluish gray and even make this wall look a little bit more weathered and battered and just kind of old, because Coruscant's thousands of years old, so who knows how long these apartment buildings have been here. I also decided to add some vents in the wall. I've got this round one right here and then a bigger rectangular one up here. These could be for any number of things. You've got air intakes, vents for dryers, air conditioning units, who knows what. And if you guys have any other ideas for cool greebling pieces that would make sense on a building wall, make sure to let me know down below in the comments. But I'm excited to replicate this over here. The only thing I'm thinking about changing is the size of these pop-outs. They are kind of small. I used cheese slopes, they only stick up above the wall 1 stud. So I'm thinking about maybe trying some of these bigger 2x4 slopes. Another successful week of building Coruscant in the books. This episode, I feel like I was kind of playing catch up a little bit. With this progress, there's the basic shapes and structures that I build. Sometimes I progress through those so fast, I leave, kind of the finer details and the finishing, I don't want to say finishing touches, but maybe less flashy, more important stuff behind, kind of like the tops of the base here, the tiling on the front of the apartments, and figuring out kind of the smaller details for the walls of the base. So I'm happy to have another good week like that. That means next week with all of those parts that I got in the mail and all of the catching up I've been doing this week, I'm ready to get some good stuff done. I'm really excited because I'm going to be starting on the apartment buildings over here on this side. I've got some cool parts for that, and I'm really interested to see what you guys think of my vision for that whole area. Also, fingers crossed, I might even get to start working on some skyscrapers for the top side. All that being said, let's hit the outro. I enjoy these kind of catch-up weeks where I focus more on little smaller builds, because those builds, while not as visible and as not apparent in the mock, are still going to help with that wow factor and add the necessary detail to this mock to make it look realistic, to make it look like Coruscant. So I definitely got some more of that stuff to do in next week's update, sprinkled in with hopefully some apartment buildings and skyscraper stuff. Don't forget to let me know what you thought about this episode down below in the comments, and I will catch you guys later. But until then, happy building.